Michigan, Republicans are thrilled that Democratic U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow is retiring in that state. They would love to take that Senate seat in Michigan, and so cue the headlines out of Michigan. Quote, Michigan Republican candidate caught living in Florida. This is about Republican Michigan U.S. Senate candidate Mike Rogers. This confluence of where he lives and his name led the Michigan Advance to build the perfect headline for this story, which is, quote, where is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood?
Well, it sure is a beautiful day in the neighborhood when Republican Senate candidates are getting exposed for everything from living in a different state than they're running in, to lying about a gunshot wound for some odd reason, and most egregiously suggesting seniors shouldn't be able to vote, and then being sued for elder abuse, negligence, and wrongful death. Ah, family values. Now, this one's a doozy, folks, and we've saved the best for last, so stick around. But with Rachel Maddow's help, I've compiled this list of lies and issues with Republican candidate quality for both your information and amusement. So let's start with Mr. Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
It sure is, but that depends what neighborhood you're talking about. Because Mike Rogers, despite running for Senate in Wisconsin, has spent the last several years as a Florida man. But even calling him that feels like downright disrespect to the name. Just watch him not know what one of the major Wisconsin propositions was in 2022, and then admit to not even voting last time in the state he's running for.
How did you vote on Prop 3?
Prop 3.
The abortion issue.
Listen, I think that here's what's going to happen on abortion in America.
How did you vote on it?
Here's this, there's a curtain behind there for a reason. Oh, come on, that's funny.
I was just curious if you even voted, though, in Michigan.
I did not vote in Michigan.
Okay.
If you had,
I had moved to Florida because of some business opportunities I had down there.
Now, Mike Rogers did represent Michigan's 8th congressional district in Congress from 2001 to 2015, but was most recently registered to vote in Cape Coral, Florida, where he had a $1.7 million mansion.
Mike Rogers, again, wants to be the senator from Michigan, but he does appear to be registered to vote in Florida at his very nice house in Cape Coral, Florida, where he is registered with the Republican Party of Florida, voter status active. Where is Mr. Rogers' neighborhood indeed?
Which seems oddly reminiscent of the troubles of a former Republican Senate hopeful, and hopefully will turn out the same way it did for Doc Oz. And speaking of Pennsylvania,
in Pennsylvania, Republicans are running a guy who lives in Connecticut, who grew up in a literal president's mansion and says it was a family farm where he was so poor.
Right. Meet Dave McCormick, who says he lives in Pennsylvania and grew up poor, but the reality is a bit more complex. While McCormick does own a home in Pittsburgh, a review of public records, among other things, indicates he still lives on Connecticut's Gold Coast, one of the densest concentrations of wealth in America. The former hedge fund CEO rents a $16 million mansion in Westport that features a 1,500-bottle wine cellar, an elevator, and a private waterfront resort overlooking Long Island Sound. Clearly, as a guy who grew up so poor on a family farm, he has to rent the mansion rather than own. So he's just like the rest of us. A real rags to riches story from the guy who once helped Bush open up investment to China and then had his hedge fund profit immensely off of it, only to now rail against politicians who are too eager to open up the same kind of trade. You know, the classic Republican trope of, it's only okay when I do it.
But wait, there's more. In Montana, Republicans really want to take the U.S. Senate seat there that is currently held by popular Democratic Senator Jon Tester. One of the things that makes Jon Tester really popular in a largely rural state like Montana is that Senator Tester is, for real, a real farmer, drives the tractor and everything. Republicans have decided to run somewhat against Senator Jon Tester in Montana, who is a person from Minnesota, who grew up in the suburbs of St. Paul. Since he has been running against Jon Tester, though, he has made a big deal of saying that he grew up near farmland. Turns out there was maybe farmland near the multi-million-dollar lake house he grew up in suburban St. Paul. So that's pretty much just like being a farmer. This follows another quite unusual controversy for this Montana Senate candidate, in which he either dropped a loaded gun in a parking lot at Glacier National Park, and the gun went off when it hit the ground, and he thereby shot himself in the arm. Or he didn't really shoot himself in the arm by dropping a gun in the parking lot at Glacier National Park, but he nevertheless went to the hospital anyway And while he did tell a U.S. park ranger that he dropped a gun in that parking lot and shot himself that day, he was actually lying about that to the ranger because really he was trying to conceal the secret truth that he had an unreported war wound that he didn't want anybody to know about. But whatever happened, it was definitely near farmland. There was very near. You could smell it nearby.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Unless, of course, you're a Republican and your entire identity is based around making stuff up.
I'm really rich.
I'm the most successful person ever to run.
Fortunately, I'm very rich.
And while there are certainly other Republican candidates with similar quality issues, such as Arizona's Kari Lake, who has reportedly already lost the confidence of Donald Trump, the last person I want to focus on today is this guy.
Washington has become corrupt. Career politicians sell themselves to special interests and end up working for them and not you. I've worked hard, been fortunate. I don't need their special interest money, and I won't take it. If you decide to elect me as your next senator, I'll donate my entire salary to a Wisconsin charity every year. I'm Eric Hovde. I can't be bought, and I'll put you and our country first. I approve this message.
Wow, sure looks like you donated some of that salary already for that clearly unscripted applause there. And despite dressing the part of a real Midwestern red-blooded American,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible.
It turns out up until recently, he was living in a large $7 million mansion with ocean views in Laguna Beach, California. He was also named one of the most influential people in all of Orange County 3 years in a row by the Orange County Business Journal, missed most elections in Wisconsin for the last decade, and shot very popular ads for his bank in California that included casting for the role of the big bad banker, which seems pretty messed up when you consider.
In Wisconsin, Republicans are running a Selena Meyer understudy who is from California, whose bank is being sued for elder abuse and who says don't let people in nursing homes vote.
Yeah. His bank was named as a co-defendant in a California lawsuit that accuses a senior living facility partly owned by the bank of elder abuse, negligence, and wrongful death. And he's also said this in regards to letting elderly people vote.
Number two, you look at the nursing homes. Look, I do lending into the nursing home community, or used to. The average life expectancy in a nursing home is 4 to 5 months. How can you have, Racine County Sheriff finding 100% of the people voting, and by the way, kids of parents, elderly parents that are dying saying, who voted for my parent? Who did that?
Which is rich, considering that's also the average life expectancy of sitting senators, and yet we still don't have term limits. And let's be honest, the reason this guy doesn't need his salary or special interest donations is not because he's some beacon of democracy for Wisconsin voters, but because he's already filthy rich and will only serve his and his business's interests. What a friggin' lineup for the GOP. Even the last time around in 2022, Mitch McConnell, of all people, tried to lower expectations of Republican midterm chances due to candidate quality issues that he said they needed to fix. But it's clear that much like properly governing, Republicans can't even do that. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video and the deep dive we did into the Republican candidates for Senate. And I know we covered a lot, but please let me know your thoughts on any of these candidates and their scandals in those comments down below. If you liked the video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel. We greatly appreciate your support and want to keep bringing you informative videos like these. So if you can, your support on Patreon would mean the world, as well as we are a grassroots funded organization. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you all in the next one.